In a land shrouded in thick mist, a beautiful woman was bound in chains, while a group of figures surrounding her chanted strange incantations without pause. Tonight was the night of the blood moon. From every direction, the shadows of bizarre creatures began to emerge, closing in on every place where humans dwelled. Before the woman could cry for help, a monster with 2 long tentacles and a pair of enormous wings materialized right before her eyes. Just as it prepared to strike, she decided to stop seeking rescue. Instead, she summoned all her strength and shattered the shackles that held her, calling forth her guardian sword. One of the hooded figures also drew his weapon and began the sealing ritual. Following his lead, the others rose one by one, ready to imprison the evil dragon Dagenzot for all eternity. They conjured a colossal shield to prevent it from escaping, and the beast was slowly driven back toward the barrier. But at that very moment, Barrow, the young man wielding the staff, suddenly collapsed. Everyone was gripped with worry. Yet the ritual had to continue. However, without unity among them, and with the monster's overwhelming power, Dagenzot shattered the defenses and burst free. A young boy named Hero, tasked with holding the shield, became the evil dragon's target. Seeing this, his father Barrow immediately reached out, desperately trying to save his son. In that instant, Hero was slashed across his left shoulder. Moments later, Dagenzot's rampage unleashed a massive explosion that engulfed the entire land. Elsewhere, in another time, rain poured down in torrents as a man journeyed through forests and crossed deserts to reach a great town. The moment the guard caught sight of him and the sharp blade strapped to his back, the guard was so terrified that he let the man pass through without question. Inside the city, a lively night market was in full swing, brimming with excitement and joy. Just then, a young woman leaped down from above into the heart of the festival and announced that Nambuko had arrived. She then channeled her power to summon a magnificent army and a procession of elegant carriages. The one called Nambuko sat atop his carriage with imposing authority, then ordered his followers to toss coins down to the people below, as though bestowing charity upon them. Hero noticed that while most of the crowd eagerly worshipped Nambuko and scrambled for the coins, a boy lurking in a nearby alley showed nothing but contempt for the man, insisting that every coin being scattered was money Nambuko had stolen from the people in the first place. The children, however, were far more excited about something called the Grand Troa, a treasure belonging to Nambuko said to grant unlimited wealth, food, and every kind of wish the heart desired. Among the children, one boy became so thrilled upon hearing about the Grand Troa that he immediately broke away from the group, slipped into the crowd of adults, and quietly climbed aboard one of the carriages. In a corner of the market, a man was telling the tale of the ancient war between humans and the evil dragon, the legend of Dalhobart, all in an effort to sell a dragon slayer badge. While the townsfolk showed nothing but skepticism, Hero believed the badge held real value. But right at that moment, a boy snatched the badge and tried to steal it. Unfortunately for the little thief, a large brute immediately lunged forward and grabbed him on the merchant's orders. Seeing the young pickpocket about to be dealt with, Hero finally drew his sword and pointed it at the brute. He tossed a gold coin to the merchant as payment for the badge, and in doing so, rescued the boy as well. The little thief showed no gratitude whatsoever. In truth, stealing the badge had only been a diversion. Their real plan was to start a fight and use the chaos to snatch wallets. In the end, while Hero's attention was elsewhere, the boy stole the Dalhobart badge and bolted. Back at their hideout, the gang of children lamented their failed pickpocketing scheme and blamed the swordsman for ruining everything. Then, without warning, Hero appeared out of nowhere and reclaimed his badge. He had no intention of making a scene, but just as he was about to leave, the children drew their own weapons, determined to take the badge back. In a flash, Hero shot through the window and vanished into the night, leaving the young thieves fuming with frustration. Outside the city gates, a tall man carrying a portrait of Hero was searching for his whereabouts. His companion, Palupa, confirmed that this was indeed the place where Hero was staying. The scene shifted to another building where Nambuko was dining with the lord of the city, using his army and his dragon as leverage to propose buying all the magicite from the lord. The city lord worried that such a deal would cause unrest among the people due to the change in prices, but Nambuko showed no concern whatsoever. After threats came the sweet offer. Nambuko revealed the Grand Troa, proposing to exchange a single wish from it for the entire stock of magicite. But while they were deep in pleasant conversation, someone above had silently stolen the Grand Troa stone. Even so, Nambuko showed no alarm. His subordinates easily caught the little mouse, who turned out to be one of the children from the gang. In the dead of night, Hiro was running across rooftops with the young thieves chasing close behind. In the middle of their playful pursuit, the leader of the thieves received word that Peshate, the boy from their group, had been captured while stealing the Grand Troa and would be executed at dawn. The children immediately abandoned Hiro and rushed off. The next morning, the townspeople gathered in the great square to hear Nambuko's men announce Peshate's crimes and prepare his execution. The young thieves were furious but powerless against such a vast army. At that moment, Hiro emerged from the crowd and declared he would take on the mission of saving the boy. True to his word, Hiro immediately stepped forward and openly defied the execution order. In an instant, a regiment of red soldiers surged forward to attack. Hiro swiftly dispatched the soldiers with his lightning speed, using nothing but his bare hands. When Nambuko's magic-wielding subordinate launched a spell, Hiro finally unsheathed his sword to defend himself. But the moment he drew it, he was horrified to discover that what he held was nothing more than an ordinary fruit-peeling knife. Just as he was surrounded by the dangerous soldiers, the man who had been searching for Hiro arrived on the scene and broke through the siege to rescue him. In the chaos, Peshate was freed by the young thieves just in time. The man showed deep reverence toward Hiro, which made Hiro's skin crawl with unease. Palupa mocked Hiro, pointing out that he had not even trained long enough with the sword before running off to slay the evil dragon Dagenzot. At that moment, Nambuko's subordinate pulled out the Grand Troa to deal with the three of them. The instant Hiro laid eyes on it, he recognized it as his father's sacred sealing artifact and immediately resolved to take it back. His companion also drew his sword, ready to attack. Seeing the Grand Troa revealed, the crowd was seized with terror, for the subordinate was using its power to amplify his strikes against the three outsiders. But the moment the attack was unleashed, something deflected it back onto the subordinate himself. Right then, a mark both strange and eerily familiar appeared in the center of the arena. Hiro instantly recognized it as the evil dragon Dagenzot. Nambuko and everyone present were stunned beyond belief that the evil dragon was still alive after all this time. The continent of Kunan is ruled by sword and sorcery. Three mighty nations maintain the balance of power: the kingdom of Saint Amoria, the kingdom of Ishelfine, and the kingdom of Van Lodis. Their strengths are perfectly matched, and should any imbalance arise, a war engulfing the entire continent would surely follow. Beyond that, this land harbors an evil dragon feared by all, Dagenzot, a monster born from darkness that incinerates everything and devours human souls. The moment Hiro caught sight of Dagenzot, his old wound on his left shoulder flared with searing pain, and a flood of hatred for the creature that had slain his parents surged through him. He charged forward with his sword, but was instantly paralyzed by some unknown power the dragon wielded. While everyone else cowered in fear, Nambuko was utterly fascinated by the evil dragon. Anyone who tried to rush out and attack it was blocked by his subordinate. Just as a volley of arrows flew toward Hiro and his companion, the evil dragon Dagenzot, against all expectation, spread its wings to shield them. One by one, Nambuko's forces were sent flying. The people scattered in panic, and Palupa quickly fled with the crowd. But the instant after its display of power, the evil dragon dissolved into the darkness and vanished, leaving the sky clear and blue once more. Witnessing this, the city lord erupted with fury, accusing Nambuko of summoning Dagenzot. Nambuko simply smiled with wicked delight. What he craved most was fear, and the people would fear Dagenzot. That fear was exactly what he and his people would exploit for profit. The city lord was left speechless, horrified by the twisted mind of this terrifying merchant. After the devastating incident, life in the city gradually returned to normal. Hiro was taken by his kinsman Juru to the hideout of the young thieves to lay low and recover from his wounds. Juru then told the children the truth. 10 years ago, Hiro's father was none other than Lord Barrow, and his mother was Kismetit. Together, they had tried to seal away Dagenzot, which led to the tragedy at Balbagoa. The two had chosen the buffer zone between the three kingdoms as the site for the sealing, at a time when all three nations were so terrified of the evil dragon that none would allow the ritual to take place within their own borders. Kismetit's noble soul was used as bait to lure the dragon out. Then came Barrow's sealing artifact, Kismetit's shadow sword, Hiro's holy mirror, and the combined magical power of 100 dark sorcerers to perform the seal. Though it seemed the ritual had succeeded, in truth, on that fateful day, Hiro's parents and every one of the sorcerers were consumed by Dagenzot's soul-devouring flames, never to return. The evil dragon itself had escaped into hiding and remained concealed ever since. Just as Juru finished the story, Hiro awoke from his long coma. The moment he opened his eyes, he declared his unwavering resolve to slay the evil dragon Dagenzot. He had trained under Juru since birth for this very purpose, to avenge his parents. The children suddenly remembered the Grand Troa and its power to grant any wish. Surely it could defeat the evil dragon. Hiro agreed. With it in their hands, they could end Dagenzot's existence once and for all. The problem was that the Grand Troa belonged to Nambuko, an arms dealer who desired war and death above all else to enrich himself. Wherever he went, the people's livelihoods withered and decayed. Learning of Nambuko's true nature only strengthened Hiro's determination to reclaim the Grand Troa. Juru felt the plan was far from feasible, but he accompanied Hiro out the door nonetheless to embark on the mission. When Palupa learned that Hiro had spent an entire gold coin on the Dalhobard badge, he nearly fainted on the spot. A whole gold coin for a worthless fake. Seeing Palupa losing his mind, Hiro quickly grabbed Juru, and the two of them slipped away. Meanwhile, at Nambuko's residence, a subordinate arrived only to learn that the master had already departed for the Deadwish lands. Sherisharu, the subordinate, quickly contacted Nambuko to scold him, but Nambuko simply assigned her a task: find the one whom Dagenzot had protected. Outside the city, the group wanted to grab something to eat, but everyone knew that the reputation of both men could cause trouble, and so none of the locals would sell them anything. Just then, a cat-eared girl appeared out of nowhere and led them to her own shop for lunch. During the meal, she casually revealed that she already knew Hiro was the son of Barrow, which instantly put all three of them on guard. But no matter how they pressed her, Erin refused to say another word and swiftly turned and walked away. After wandering around the city all day with little to show for it, the three of them returned to the young thieves' hideout to rest. The leader was still seething with anger, but remembering that they had saved his friend, he reluctantly agreed to let them stay. The next morning, Juru prepared a lavish and beautifully presented meal for everyone as a gesture of thanks for their hospitality. After the meal, seeing that Hiro was still determined to reclaim the Grand Troa, Juru objected. He insisted that Hiro needed far more training before he could become a worthy swordmaster, and in his current state, he would not be able to reclaim anything. With that settled, the whole group headed to a barren wasteland to begin training. The first lesson was to fight slimes. Hiro thought the task was laughably easy and swung his sword without hesitation. But the little slime dodged effortlessly and scurried away. Then 2 or 3 more slimes swarmed him. Though they were not lethal, getting covered in their sticky residue was thoroughly unpleasant. From a distance, Palupa bluntly remarked that Hiro had absolutely no talent for swordsmanship. Juru did not argue. He left Palupa behind to watch over Hiro and went off to hunt monsters for money. On the other side of the field, Hiro was still wrestling with the slimes without managing to defeat a single one. He wandered back toward where Palupa was standing and spotted an earth dragon lumbering toward them. Hiro was instantly a billion times more excited than he had ever been fighting slimes and charged straight at it. But just then, the earth dragon did not attack. It simply opened its mouth, revealing inside a stunningly beautiful girl with white hair. As they stood frozen in bewilderment, the girl stepped out of the dragon's mouth, and the earth dragon swiftly turned and departed. Then, without warning, the girl wrapped her arms around Hiro to feel his heartbeat, and invited him to come with her. Hiro could only stare in utter confusion, having no idea what had just happened. Palupa and Hiro stared in bewilderment as the girl held up a magic staff and rambled on about nonsense. She went on to introduce herself as Sarado, saying she wanted to go to wherever Hiro lived. Neither Palupa nor Hiro had the faintest idea what the person standing before them was talking about. Just then, Juru returned from hunting monsters and was utterly stunned to find a strange girl clinging to Hiro. He immediately drew his sword and entered a defensive stance, ready to protect his young master from any threat. But Sarado showed no fear at all. She acted as though she had just set foot on this world for the very first time, endlessly admiring the beautiful colors of the stones on the ground and even chatting with them. Seeing this, all three of them instantly agreed that something was clearly not right with this girl's head, and they quietly tried to slip away. Hiro could not help but glance back at her with a twinge of guilt. But at Juru's urging, he steeled himself and walked on. Back at the hideout, Hiro could not stop thinking about the strange girl. Tomet noticed and told him that if he wanted, he should just be friends with her. Their gang of young thieves had no families either, yet they had become friends and lived together just fine. Hiro heard this but said nothing. Outside the city, Sherisharu had led her soldiers through the market searching for any trace of Hiro. When conventional methods proved useless, she pulled out her mirror and cast a spell. But Hiro's location still would not appear, leaving her deeply doubtful of her own abilities. In a place no one was paying attention to, the peculiar Sarado had wandered into the city, her eyes wide with curiosity at the ordinary everyday life around her. The scene shifted elsewhere. In the Deadwish lands, Nambuko ordered his subordinates to report the reappearance of the evil dragon Dagenzot to the royal court, preparing to spread the rumor and plunge the world into even greater chaos. The wretched merchant also relentlessly assigned his people to accelerate the purchase and production of magic stones in the coming days. After that, he contacted a certain doctor and demanded he quickly develop new weapons to stimulate demand across all 3 neighboring kingdoms. After ending the call with Nambuko, the doctor glanced toward the corner of his room, where a magic staff identical to Sarado's stood. It seemed the old man had some connection to her. That evening, everyone was shocked to find Sarado at their doorstep, having somehow tracked down their hideout. She even declared that wherever Hiro lived was her home too, which made Hiro deeply uncomfortable, while the children simply thought she was out of her mind. Despite the relentless teasing from the kids and Palupa, Hiro ultimately decided to welcome one more member into their group and quickly arranged a place for her to stay. The next morning, Juru and Palupa went out to sell the monster loot for money. Hiro did not go with them today. Instead, he had taken Sarado along to the slime territory for training. Hiro was deeply frustrated, but Juru had made it clear that without completing his training, there would be no fighting the evil dragon. Sarado simply smiled in silence as she watched him rant and fume for a good while. They were in the middle of talking when, from above, a wolf-like monster suddenly appeared, seemingly intent on killing them both. Hiro grabbed his sword and charged, but was easily sent flying. The wolf creature advanced toward Sarado. Seeing this, Hiro forced himself back to his feet and lunged at it again. The wolf charged at him in return, but at that very moment, the wolf impaled its own head onto Hiro's blade and collapsed. It was dead. Once the danger had passed, Hiro rushed to check on Sarado, only to find that she had been sleeping with her eyes open the entire time and had no idea what had just happened. Noticing the wound on his shoulder, she did not hesitate to use her magic to heal it completely. Witnessing such power, Hiro could not help but marvel, and his suspicions about her true identity only deepened. Setting that aside, Hiro quickly hauled the wolf monster along with Sarado back to the city, where they exchanged it for a gold coin. As they walked through the streets, they stumbled upon a disturbing sight: men being bound and dragged away. It appeared the city lord had issued an order forcing commoners to work in the stone quarry. Seeing the children weeping as their fathers were taken from them, Hiro once again rushed forward with righteous fury to protect the common people, but was swiftly beaten unconscious and dragged off to the quarry along with the rest. Sarado, on the other hand, paid no attention to him and instead walked over to embrace the crying children and comfort them. By the time Palupa and Tomet arrived, the men had already been taken, and only Sarado remained. By evening, Hiro had been thrown into a prison cell alongside the other men. His sword had been confiscated. From the others in the cell, he learned that anyone sent to the quarry was as good as dead. Hiro tried to encourage them, but it was no use. They were all simply waiting to die. Outside, Sherisharu was still attempting to use her mirror to locate him but could not. Fortunately, her soldiers received word that Hiro was being held at the city lord's estate. At the estate, through a path unknown to anyone, Tomet had found a way inside to rescue Hiro, with Sarado trailing behind him, having followed at some unknown point. In his cell, Hiro was already using the Dalhalbard badge to break out. Elsewhere in the estate, the city lord was furiously cursing Nambuko for pushing him too far. Just then, a sound from within the wall caught his attention. He quickly opened the chest hidden behind his painting, only to be horrified to discover that its contents had vanished. In another room, Tomet held his prize, proof that the city lord had been embezzling the king's funds. The boy used it as leverage, demanding the lord release all the commoners imprisoned below. The city lord showed no fear, for the guards stationed around the room had already rushed in to seize them and reclaim the ledger. But it did not end there. Juru and Palupa arrived through the window, effortlessly snatched the ledger back, and continued the negotiation. In the end, the city lord relented. Hiro and the commoners were released and returned home safely. By nightfall, Sherisharu finally arrived to inquire about Hiro's whereabouts, but she was one step too late. He had already departed safely. It was not just Hiro. The commoners had also been freed, and many families were reunited at last. Watching them embrace, Hiro thought of his own parents, and his resolve to slay the evil dragon Dagenzot grew stronger than ever. They quickly returned to their familiar hideout to end the day, unaware that in the distance, Eren was still watching them. Today, Sherisharu decided to venture outside the city to enjoy the forest hot springs, but a monster seemed to be lurking in the area. She quickly abandoned her relaxation and prepared to deal with the creature. In the city, Jiru was the picture of a devoted homemaker, shopping at the market, buying ingredients, and cooking for the whole group. Hiro found the food absolutely terrifying to look at, but the children, who rarely had anything to eat at all, considered it an absolute delicacy. After the meal, Jiru promptly told Hiro to come train with him, and from now on it would be just the two of them. No one else was allowed to tag along. On the way, Sarado kept following them. Having no other choice, Hiro pulled out a gold coin and handed it to her so she could go explore the market, and only then did he leave. While wandering around the market, Eren appeared once again, acting familiar with Sarado and offering to show her around. Sarado did not understand and just stared at her blankly. At the wasteland, Jiru once again brought Hiro to the slime territory. This time, Hiro could not take it anymore and protested, demanding to be taken on a real monster hunt instead. Meanwhile, Eren had led Sarado to a hot spring stream known for its ability to restore and heal injuries. The two chatted without noticing that Sherisharu was also there, savoring the soothing waters. Alongside the main characters, Paloopa and Tomet were off on their own mission, hunting monsters for money. Hiro and Jiru were still arguing about training, while the girls had shed their clothes and slipped into the spring. Sherisharu stood behind the rocks, quietly listening to their idle chatter. At the slime forest, Jiru bluntly criticized Hiro for being far too impatient. He did not even have the strength to reclaim the Grand Troa, let alone kill a monster or the evil dragon Dagenzot. He reminded Hiro that without mastering the fundamentals, there was no way to advance to greater challenges. Unable to bear the criticism, Hiro immediately grabbed his sword and attacked. Back at the hot springs, Eren tried to pry information from Sarado, but Sarado always answered in the vaguest possible way. However, the moment Sarado was about to mention Hiro's name, Eren instantly shoved her underwater to keep her quiet. Even so, Sherisharu's sharp ears caught something suspicious, and she immediately moved closer to investigate. They all exchanged a few hasty words, but revealed nothing of importance. The conversation drifted back to the healing spring itself, which was rumored to be home to a vicious monster that occasionally appeared. Sarado mentioned Hiro's name once more, but fortunately Sherisharu was too dizzy to notice. On the other side, Hiro was sparring with Jiru, but of course he was no match for the man. When Paloopa and Tomet arrived, they saw Jiru send Hiro crashing to the ground, bloodied and battered. As everyone panicked, Jiru calmly told them to take Hiro to the healing spring. At the forest's edge, a squad of Nambuko's soldiers had already taken position, following a plan Sherisharu had set in motion. Sure enough, the soldiers spotted Jiru carrying Hiro into the forest. At the hot springs, the three girls quickly stepped out of the water. They began talking about the gold coin Sarado was holding, and Eren tried to lie, claiming it was simply a gift from Sarado's sweetheart. While they were still talking, they heard strange sounds coming from behind the rocks in the distance. Jiru's group had arrived at the spring to bathe and heal Hiro's injuries. Beyond that, Jiru had brought them here to test their luck and see if the monster would appear, since there was a bounty on it. Jiru explained that he had never intended to seriously hurt Hiro. He only wanted to see how determined the boy truly was, and it turned out Hiro was far more serious than he had expected. After soaking for a while, Hiro's wounds finally began to show signs of recovery. In the distance, each of the girls had her own agenda. Eren quickly tried to divert Sherisharu's attention. Though Sherisharu responded to the conversation, she was in fact still secretly observing the group. Sherisharu mentioned that she was on a mission to find someone named Hiro. Hearing this, Sarado blurted out that she knew him. Eren immediately shoved both of them underwater to protect Hiro's whereabouts. On shore, Nambuko's soldiers had moved into position, awaiting Sherisharu's signal. Behind the rocks, Tomet noticed the mark on Hiro's shoulder. Jiru explained that it was from the tragedy at Balbagoa. Back then, Barrow had used every last ounce of his strength to save his son, which was the only reason Hiro had survived. Hiro had now awakened, but his voice quickly reached the ears of both Sherisharu and Eren. After confirming her target, Sherisharu immediately snapped her fingers. Deep within the cave, a monster began to emerge. Juru took this moment to apologize to Hiro for what he had done and explained his reasoning. Hiro did not blame him at all and broke into a grin of genuine amusement. Inside the cave, the soldiers were jabbing the water with their staffs, trying to provoke the monster. Outside, just as Hiro's group was in the middle of conversation, the creature finally appeared. Sherisharu leaped up and commanded the monster to seize Hiro. But instead, the creature turned and grabbed Sarado. Sensing the danger, Eren immediately spun around and bolted. In the hot spring, the monster not only snatched Sarado, but also grabbed Sherisharu and hurled her far into the distance. Seeing Sarado captured, Hiro was consumed with worry. Juru quickly drew his sword and charged at the creature to rescue her. After a fierce struggle, Juru slew the monster. Hiro searched through the water and eventually found Sarado, still clutching the gold coin he had given her. After the ordeal, the group headed to turn in their kill for the bounty, only to be told that no such bounty had ever been posted. The whole thing had been a setup. Even so, the giant octopus monster was purchased by several merchants who planned to turn it into a culinary dish. With the money in hand, Hiro was eager to buy armor and equipment to prepare for the journey to reclaim the Grand Troa. Back at the thieves' hideout, the children were sad and reluctant to see them go. After all, Juru's cooking had been truly delicious. The next day, the children gathered at the gate to bid farewell to Hiro's group as they prepared to depart. At that moment, Tomet suddenly announced that he would join Hiro. The boy wanted to change this cursed world too. And so, the 5 of them set off together. As they left, Eren appeared and revealed that Sherisharu was the master of the monster they had encountered at the spring, and that luring them there had been part of a plan to capture them. Eren expressed her desire to join the group, and in exchange, she held in her hand the very thing they needed most, Nambuko's location. Hiro immediately agreed and welcomed Eren into the group. Crossing the vast desert toward the Deadwish lands, they came upon a sign warning of killer bears in the area. Hiro paid it no mind, excitedly urging everyone to follow his lead and press forward. Seeing this scrawny kid spouting nonsense while insisting on being the leader, the others could only sigh. High above where no one noticed, a bird was tracking them, carrying a giant eye on its body that watched their every move. Hiro's position and everyone with him were reported back to the Deadwish lands, so Nambuko had a clear picture of the situation. He ordered his subordinate to notify Sherisharu and have her return to resume her mission. Up to this point, everything was still going according to his plan. In the desert, Tomet was venturing outside the city for the first time and was taking in all sorts of new sights, witnessing many things and facing fresh challenges along the way. They entered forests, gazed at waterfalls and rainbows, and gathered fruit for food. Eren's map kept them on the right path. It was not just Tomet. Sarado was equally enchanted by the journey. The 2 of them were like newborns seeing the world for the very first time. Hiro found this amusing and teased the boy. Just then, Eren's sharp ears detected the enormous bird above. Sure enough, it swooped down from the sky, intent on attacking them all. Everyone quickly took cover behind the rocks while Juru drew his sword and stepped out to handle the bird. But at that moment, Hiro suddenly charged out like a hero, determined to slay the bird and prove he had grown stronger, and just as expected, he was easily swatted away. In the end, it was Juru who rushed in and drove the creature off. Eren and the others felt this area was no longer safe and wanted to keep moving. But Juru believed the forest ahead would shield them from the bird, since the dense canopy would limit the eagle's ability to attack. With no other choice, they all accepted the plan and entered the forest to rest before continuing onward. When night fell completely, they gathered together, lit a fire, and cooked their meal. Sarado had been sent to fetch water, but had not returned for quite some time, so Hiro took it upon himself to go find her. By the stream, Sarado was lost in wonder, gazing at the color of the grass and the crystal clarity of the water. Hiro went looking for her, but heard something like music suddenly drifting through the air. Following the melody, he found Eren playing an instrument atop a tree stump. With just the 2 of them, Hiro finally asked why Eren wanted to travel with their group. He was slightly suspicious that she too was after the Grand Troa to sell for money. Eren simply replied that she made her living selling information, nothing more. Unsatisfied with her answer, Hiro said nothing further and quickly turned to leave. After a short while, he found Sarado by the stream, and they hurried back to camp to rest. Elsewhere, Nambuko was presenting his weapons to another tribe for inspection. When the clients expressed interest in something more powerful, he showed them newly manufactured cannons built by his people. The Bonus tribe was thoroughly impressed and immediately handed over a pile of magic stones as payment. After the Bonus departed, Nambuko called another group, assuring them that the Bonus tribe would be easily destroyed. Just like that, he had secured yet another customer for new weapons. A subordinate then entered to report that someone had arrived. Sherisharu had returned to the Deadwish lands to meet Nambuko, and naturally she was scolded harshly for failing her mission. Afterward, he provided her with Hiro's current information and ordered her to continue monitoring and dealing with the group. If she failed again, she should prepare herself for death. The next morning, after resting, Hiro's group resumed their journey. Aaron, a magic trader by profession, had received intelligence that the magic stone market was experiencing extreme volatility and rapid price surges. While they were discussing this, Sherisharu used the eagle to pinpoint their location. She quickly assembled a squad and teleported to the area to finish her unfinished business. By this time, Hiro's group had arrived at a shallow salt shore. As they looked around, a flash of light suddenly appeared. It was Nambuko's soldiers along with Sherisharu. This time, she had also summoned a horde of terrifyingly enormous monster soldiers. The situation was dire. Juru threw off his cloak and raised his sword, ready to fight. But before he could do anything, Hiro had already dashed ahead recklessly, charging straight at Sherisharu. Everyone wanted to curse at him, but they had their own problems, facing the giant birds and the soldiers closing in. Though Hiro's fighting spirit burned fiercely, he was no match for a seasoned veteran. He was easily paralyzed by her attacks. Watching Hiro get brutalized by Sherisharu, Juru and the others had no choice but to rush around to rescue him. Only Aaron had vanished without anyone noticing when. Sherisharu was furious after being scolded by Nambuko, so she poured all her rage onto Hiro, attacking and tormenting him relentlessly. Seeing that the monsters and soldiers still vastly outnumbered them, Palupa finally entered the fray. He threw down a card to summon something. Instantly, from a chest appeared a creature called Mumu. Palupa ordered it to take Sarado, Tomet, and himself to safety first. Tomet was worried about Juru and Hiro, but Palupa reminded the boy that they needed to preserve their numbers first and figure out the rest later. On the battlefield, Hiro was surrounded by Sherisharu, soldiers, and monsters alike. Seeing Juru charging in, Sherisharu furiously attacked him first, using a lightning strike to paralyze him, then generating a powerful earthquake to separate the two of them. Seeing Sherisharu about to kill Juru, Hiro was consumed with rage. Power suddenly surged through him. He knocked Sherisharu's magic staff clean out of her hands, leaving her stunned. Then Hiro's body began to transform. Red marks started spreading across his skin. Something was terribly wrong. Sherisharu immediately ordered her soldiers to rush in and seize him. Hiro's eyes had turned crimson. With nothing but his bare hands, he sent every last soldier flying and obliterated them all. For the first time, Sherisharu knew what true fear felt like. She instantly used a teleportation spell to flee. Hiro then collapsed. After an entire day and night lost in unconsciousness, he slowly opened his eyes to find no one around him. The moment Hiro awoke, he spotted a convoy of carriages passing right in front of him and quickly ducked into a hiding spot. Sitting in the lead carriage was Nambuko. Hiro's mind was flooded with confusion. He did not understand where he was or what had happened that day, but he was determined to keep moving forward. Now that the danger had passed, the chest containing Mumu reappeared and safely released Sarado, Tomet, and Palupa. After searching the area, Tomet and Sarado found Juru badly injured and lying on the ground. Sarado quickly used her magic to revive him. Despite his wounds, the instant Juru regained consciousness, he set out to find Hiro. In his last memory, Hiro had been surrounded by soldiers and a sorceress, in extreme peril. But the scene below left them all speechless. It was nothing but the corpses of Nambuko's soldiers, strewn everywhere. Elsewhere in the desert, Nambuko was meeting with a beautiful woman who appeared to hold a very high rank. Above on the cliff, Dr. Bafalapa was operating a colossal machine. Under Nambuko's orders, despite his misgivings, he decided to activate it. At the base of the cliff, a massive monster was chained down, and not far away, 3 humans were also shackled, dangling like bait. When the machine activated, a surge of red energy crashed down upon both the monster and the 3 humans. All of them screamed in agony. In an instant, the energy vanished. The 3 humans and the monster were gone. While the woman stared in bewilderment, a creature far larger than before emerged. It was an amalgamation of everything that had just disappeared. Just as the creature prepared to attack, the soldiers swiftly dealt with it. The woman was deeply impressed with Nambuko's machine. which could fuse humans with orc monsters. They intended to create a fearsome army of monstrosities that would terrify every land. From a distance, Hiro had witnessed the entire scene, and he was filled with fury. Up on the cliff, Dr. Bafalapa was furious with himself for having made a grave miscalculation. At that moment, Hiro, driven by rage, revealed himself and cursed Nambuko and his insane scheme. He reached for his sword to attack, but the blade was no longer in its sheath. Nambuko decided to face him personally. The instant Hiro charged, Nambuko cut him down with ease. Hiro demanded that Nambuko return the Grand Troa, but Nambuko insisted it had always been his. After that, Hiro was restrained by soldiers and taken away. On the other side, Juru and the others were utterly bewildered to discover that Hiro had somehow single-handedly killed all those soldiers. Eren, having fled to safety, only reappeared now. Juru and the group paid no mind to her betrayal and quickly followed the footprints in the sand to track Hiro down. At a military encampment, Nambuko was preparing a feast to welcome the noblewoman. The moment he stepped out of the main tent, Sherisharu rushed over to explain the circumstances of her defeat. This time Nambuko did not scold her. Instead, he handed her a sum of money as a reward, which made her very happy. Meanwhile, Juru's group had tracked their way to the place where Nambuko had captured Hiro, and they also witnessed the grotesque human-orc hybrids. At the camp, Hiro was tied up in a dark room. After finishing his business outside, Nambuko went straight to Hiro, preparing to torture him for information about the connection between Hiro and Dagenzot. Hearing Nambuko rave obsessively about Dagenzot, Hiro could not help but think the man was beyond all hope of sanity. Nambuko ignored his contempt and pressed a blade against Hiro's hand, ready to begin the torment. But just then, the furious voice of the noblewoman rang out from outside. It turned out that one of the male escorts Nambuko had provided failed to please her, and she was livid, demanding to settle the score with him. Nambuko had no choice but to pause the torture and go deal with the situation. Once he was gone, Hiro struggled until he managed to free one leg from the ropes. He quickly found his Dalhalbart badge and used it to cut the bindings on his hands. Elsewhere, Dr. Bafalapa was still conducting experiments with the transformation machine. Suddenly, he caught Sarado's scent in the air and immediately released his dog to follow the trail. Hiro was about to make his escape when he heard noise outside. It was Dr. Bafalapa, who had followed the scent to this very spot. Upon learning that Hiro had met Sarado, the doctor bombarded him with questions about how she was doing and desperately wanted to find her. That evening, Sherisharu used the reward money from Nambuko to throw a celebration for her soldiers. Inside the prison tent, after hearing Hiro recount the story of himself and Sarado, Bafalapa immediately pressed his hand against Hiro's chest to listen to his heartbeat. Afterward, the old man retreated to a corner, visibly shaken with fear. Seizing the opportunity while the doctor was distracted, Hiro freed the last of his bindings and grabbed the old man, threatening him. But Bafalapa no longer cared about anything. He just kept muttering things no one could understand. After gathering his thoughts, Bafalapa declared he would entrust Sarado to Hiro, then turned to leave. Hiro quickly used Sarado as leverage, asking the doctor to help him escape. Bafalapa agreed without hesitation. He gave Hiro a potion called Banake, explaining that it would help him. All he needed to do was think of Sarado while drinking it. Though slightly suspicious, Hiro followed the instructions, and within moments, his body was enveloped in a strange and powerful energy. Before departing, the doctor also mentioned that Hiro would meet someone named Theo. Before Hiro could process any of it, he was teleported away. Outside the camp, the group had tracked their way to where Hiro was being held captive. They had not yet figured out how to infiltrate and rescue him when Hiro suddenly dropped from the sky. After landing, Hiro quickly urged everyone to run. Back at the camp, Nambuko returned to the prison tent only to find Hiro gone and Dr. Bafalapa tied to a chair. Nambuko was not so easily fooled and immediately pointed his blade at the doctor. Bafalapa showed no fear, simply stating that Hiro lived for Sarado. Only then did Nambuko realize that Bafalapa had never eliminated Sarado as ordered but had let her go. He was furious, but since the doctor was still useful, he devised another plan for him instead. Bafalapa did not care about his own life or death. After all, he too lived for Sarado. Nambuko then mused aloud. If Hiro ever learned the truth about Sarado's identity, how would he react? Bafalapa was struck speechless. In a remote gorge where the ruins of primitive structures hinted at a civilization that once existed, Hiro and his companions decided to rest. In truth, this place had once been a magic stone quarry that had been stripped bare and abandoned. Hiro told everyone what he had heard and what had happened during his capture at Nambuko's encampment. Sarado then mentioned that she could smell Dr. Bafalapa's scent on Hiro, revealing that she too knew the man. Juru theorized that Hiro's body was indeed abnormal, and that Dagenzot might hold the key to the truth, just as the evil dragon had protected the two of them before. He believed there was a resonance between the dragon and Hiro, and moreover, the marks on both of their bodies were identical. Eren also began to piece things together. If Hiro's heart was not his own, but the dragon's, then the dragon's heart must be Hiro's. In that case, Dagenzot shielding Hiro that day could be understood more as an act of self-preservation than protection. This led Juru to a new hypothesis. 10 years ago, Hiro's father Barrow must have swapped their hearts. The power Hiro had unleashed to slaughter Nambuko's soldiers was likely the dragon's own power, filled with hatred and savagery, which had transformed him into a dragon form and driven him to attack. Hiro realized that if he wanted to avenge his parents and kill Dagenzot, it meant he would also have to prepare himself to die. Unable to process everything, Hiro bolted out of the cave. Juru and Palupa quickly followed. Eren tried to go after them but was stopped by Tomet, so she stayed behind. Back in the Deadwish lands, Sherisharu was in her own territory, happily playing with a monster called Yellow Doggy, a gift from Nambuko. At her command, winged eye creatures burst from the monster's fur, and they launched yet another search. At the abandoned quarry, Hiro sat in a daze outside, ignoring Palupa's persistent urging to come back in. He said nothing, lost in memories of when he was small, when his parents were still alive. Back then, Palupa had been playing with baby Hiro and his mother Kismetit when Lord Barrow arrived carrying a scrawny, frail boy, the very same Juru of today. They reminisced together. As Hiro grew a little older, he became a mischievous fool who loved teasing everyone around him. But all joy must end. After the Balbagoa tragedy, the boy Hiro lost every trace of happiness from his face. He could not even bring himself to watch as they carried his parents' coffins away. From that day on, Hiro began training with the sword. Seeing that he had exhausted every story and Hiro was still wallowing in sorrow, Palupa continued with Juru's story. After learning of Hiro's desire for vengeance, Juru had spent 10 full years trying to learn magic so he could train Hiro, though it had yielded no results. Palupa reminded Hiro that on that fateful day, his father Barrow had risked everything to protect him, and now Juru was willing to do whatever it took to uncover the truth for his sake. He should not stay buried in despair forever. After a while, Hiro began to feel better. He returned to his cheerful, spirited self, brimming with determination to take the Grand Troa from Nambuko. He realized that having his heart swapped was not so devastating after all. With the Grand Troa in hand, they could simply swap the hearts back. With Hiro's spirits restored, the group set off once more. Only Eren had vanished again, as always. Sarado breathed a sigh of relief seeing Hiro happy once more. Tomet was curious to see Hiro's dragon form, but Hiro flatly refused to transform. Even if he wanted to, he had no idea how. Unbeknownst to them, one of Yellow Doggy's eyes had already found them. The moment Sherisharu confirmed her target, she wanted to set out immediately. A soldier hesitated, since Nambuko had ordered them to stay and await further instructions. However, Sherisharu was so eager for praise that she insisted on handling things herself on his behalf. After a long day of travel, Hiro's group stopped at another stretch of wasteland that looked like a village long since abandoned. The place seemed to make Juru uneasy, but since the group had decided, he went along with it. Tomet walked over to a nearby well to investigate. He too found the place strange. A well was the most important thing in any village. There was no reason for it to be this destroyed. Everyone quickly split up to check if anyone was still alive. The area was covered in monster tracks. As Juru walked around, the place suddenly triggered memories of his own past. When he was young, he had watched the villagers torturing his parents because his father, an ogre, had dared to live among humans. Juru, their child, was also hunted, but he managed to escape. His parents were strung up, and no matter what they said, the ogre villagers kept hurling abuse, accusing them of bringing calamity. In the end, both were hanged before the eyes of Juru and the entire village. Returning to the present, everyone regrouped after their search. Among them, Tomet had entered a house and discovered several corpses in a horrific state, as though they had been clawed to death by a monster. Outside, Juru was still lost in his memories. After fleeing the ogre village, the young Juru had been found by Lord Barrow, who took him home, where he met Palupa and baby Hiro. Back in reality, Tomit came running out of the house in a panic, with the monster that had destroyed the village right behind him. Hiro recognized it instantly as one of the human-orc hybrids created by Nambuko's people. He wanted to charge in, but without his sword, he could not. Seeing the creature barreling toward them, Juru ignored his injuries and picked up his blade. Even so, he was quickly knocked down, lacking the strength to hold his ground as he normally would. The monster turned toward Hiro. Tomit screamed at him to transform into his dragon form. Hiro tried desperately but could not activate the power. Just as he closed his eyes in surrender, Juru summoned every last ounce of his strength, raised his sword, and slew the monster. In the Deadwish lands, Eren had arrived to meet Sherisharu, flattering and praising Nambuko relentlessly to win the woman's favor. Afterward, Eren went inside to meet Nambuko himself and reported everything she had learned, from Hiro's ability to transform into a dragon to the possibility that their hearts had been swapped. Pleased with the intelligence, Nambuko rewarded Eren with a shell-shaped artifact called Alshana. Eren ignored whatever else Nambuko had to say, snatched the item, and left. After this meeting, Nambuko summoned Sherisharu and ordered her to kill Hiro immediately. On the other side, Eren used Mumu's transportation service to leave the Deadwish lands. She recalled what she had gleaned from Alshana about Nambuko's intent to kill Hiro, and a calculating smile crossed her lips. By now, Hiro's group had arrived at a new town called Rukionau, a bustling hub where many trade routes intersected. Hiro wanted to sell the monster and buy a new sword. The Deadwish lands were still far away, and they needed to earn more money for the journey ahead. Tomit sighed as Hiro kept trying to act cool. By afternoon, the group quickly found an inn to rest. After settling in, they headed to a sword shop to find Hiro a blade. Hiro kept pulling out impressive-looking swords, but Juru rejected everyone. In the end, the old man selected a smaller, lighter sword for him. Though unhappy about not getting a cooler weapon, Hiro ultimately agreed to buy it. After the purchase, Juru went to the market to buy dinner ingredients. Hiro and Sarado strolled around the market together and stopped at a jewelry shop. Sarado was captivated by a moon-shaped piece of jewelry, but even after a discount, the price was still 100 gold coins, so Hiro had to give up. Sarado then pulled out the gold coin Hiro had given her before and said she did not need the moon. This golden pebble was enough. Seeing this, Hiro let it go and quickly met up with Juru to head back to the inn. At the sword shop from earlier, Eren also appeared. She showed interest in an arrow and decided to buy it. That evening, everyone gathered for dinner. Juru's cooking was as delicious as ever. Tomit noticed Sarado was not eating and tried to take her food, but Palupa stopped him just in time. Juru then brought up the person named Theo that Dr. Bafalapa had mentioned before. He realized this could very well be Master Theo, the teacher who had trained Lord Barrow. While everyone was puzzling over this, Sarado dropped another bombshell, declaring that Theo was her friend. Since they had no idea how or when they would meet, but if Dr. Bafalapa had said so, they simply needed to wait for fate to bring them together. After dinner, everyone returned to their rooms. Juru planned to stay in the next day to map out the road ahead. Everyone settled into their quarters. That night, Sarado stood by the window, smiling softly as she gazed at the gold coin Hiro had given her. In the men's room, aside from Palupa who was dead asleep, Hiro and Juru were both still wide awake. Hiro sensed that the abandoned village they had passed through seemed to have affected Juru somehow. But Juru simply said it was a private matter. Hiro could not sleep because the thought of carrying a dragon's heart inside him weighed heavily on his mind. Outside the town, a monster was moving through the darkness. In an instant, a massive explosion rang out, jolting everyone awake. It was not just one. Wherever the shadow creature passed, an explosion erupted in its wake. Hiro quickly grabbed his new sword and rushed toward the chaos. Juru chased after him, reminding the others to stay in their rooms. When they reached the scene, both were stunned to see the creature moving like a shadow. Then a symbol appeared that made Hiro freeze. It was the mark of the evil dragon. The shadowy tentacles continued to sweep through the area, and any human caught by them was swallowed whole as if drowning in darkness. Sarado wanted to follow Hiro but was held back by Tomit and Palupa. On his end, Hiro was about to charge in but Juru stopped him. While they argued, the creature struck. Juru quickly pushed Hiro aside and attacked the abomination with his sword, but it had no effect. He too was quickly engulfed. On the other side, sensing that the creature was not Dagenzot, Sarado broke free from everyone and ran. Hiro tried to rush back to help Juru, but was repelled by something. Sherisharu had appeared once again. This was her latest scheme. On the day she received the order to kill Hiro, Nambuko had also given her a strange potion created by the doctor, which was the ink monster itself. Because Sarado had run off, Tomet and Paloopa had no choice but to follow her. Sherisharu gloated, saying it was all because Hiro was foolish enough to try saving people that he had fallen right into her trap. In the Deadwish lands, Dr. Bafalapa anxiously watched Sarado and the others from afar. Behind him, Nambuko reminded the old man to turn the camera back to Hiro. Back in Rukionau, Sherisharu ordered the monster to devour Juru completely, then aimed her weapon at Hiro, ready to finish him off. Hiro could only block her strikes with his bare hands, suffering continuous electric shocks. Dr. Bafalapa was consumed with worry. Nambuko observed calmly. He wanted to see how the evil dragon Dagenzot would react. Back at the scene, the rest of the group was overwhelmed with concern. Sherisharu pressed her weapon down harder and harder with sadistic delight. Pushed to the absolute brink, Hiro once again transformed into his dragon form and sent Sherisharu flying. Faced with this terrifying sight, Sherisharu abandoned all bravado and cowered behind her soldiers. Everyone was stunned by the spectacle. Nambuko was more thrilled than anyone. Hiro roared with savage fury as an immense wave of power swirled around him. Juru was being slowly consumed when, at that exact moment, an arrow pierced through the darkness, freeing him from the creature's grip just in time. Juru immediately ran to Hiro's side to protect him. On the other side, Sherisharu instantly fled behind her soldiers, then ordered the monster to finish Hiro off. However, the moment the creature faced Hiro, a colossal surge of power erupted, leaving everyone bewildered. And then, the evil dragon Dagenzot appeared. Hiro, having lost all reason, drew his sword and slashed at Juru as he approached. Hiro's power was so immense that even Dr. Bafalapa's mirror magic shattered under its force. Then, once the threat had vanished, Dagenzot dissolved into the shadows once more and departed. The monster disappeared as well. Hiro regained consciousness and took in the destruction around him, only then realizing what he had just done. Tomet and Paloopa rushed to tend to Juru. Only Sarado, clutching herself in visible discomfort, went unnoticed by everyone. On the other side, Nambuko smiled with satisfaction. He wanted Hiro so that he could control the evil dragon Dagenzot. After the terrifying incident, a new day began as it always did. Juru had been treated and was resting in the hotel room. Hiro, consumed with guilt, sat by his side without leaving, tending to him constantly. Sarado saw this and quietly sat beside him as well. Without Juru to serve as chef, Paloopa reluctantly stepped up to the task, though his cooking was absolutely dreadful. After a period of rest, Juru finally regained consciousness. Hiro was overjoyed, but immediately fell into remorse, apologizing for losing control and attacking his own companion. No matter how much Paloopa tried to comfort him, Hiro could not shake the guilt. He asked Sarado if she could heal Juru the way she had healed him before, but Sarado only shook her head and said she could not. Once awake, Juru quickly pushed through his pain to analyze the situation with everyone. He believed Hiro's dragon form was extremely dangerous, not just to those around him, but to Hiro's own body as well. Juru feared that if this continued, Hiro would fully transform into a dragon and never be able to return to his human self. The situation was dire. Before losing consciousness, he managed to say they should seek out Master Theo for answers. Paloopa quickly contacted Mumu, but her teleportation services and medicine were far too expensive. Everything they owned would not be enough to afford it. They could not take Juru back to the healing spring either. It was too far and too dangerous. He could die on the way. Just then, Aaron appeared out of nowhere once again and reminded them of a place rich in Serafuria. Kuru Arua Gorge, half a day's walk from here. Without hesitation, Hiro immediately set off to find the medicine for Juru. Sarado did not hesitate to go with him. In the Deadwish lands, Nambuko's enterprise was continuously receiving new orders from the three kingdoms. They were all buying weapons and defensive armor, steadily reinforcing their own military capabilities. Whenever a kingdom was not buying enough, Nambuko had his subordinates spread rumors about Dagenzot sightings within that country to stimulate weapons purchases. Meanwhile, Sherisharu was hugging Yellow Doggy and moping. She had failed yet again and been scolded by Nambuko. In reality, she had been confined to a room under the watch of soldiers. On the other side, Hiro was rushing deep into the forest searching for the medicine while Sarado did her best to comfort him. Back at the inn, everyone was worried about Juru, who still had not broken his fever. Tomet then pointed out that Sarado was a very strange person. She never seemed to eat or have any need for food. She could always appear at exactly the right place, as if someone were feeding her information, and she never smiled. He suspected Sarado was on Nambuko's side, considering she knew Dr. Balbagoa. Palupa wanted to set that aside for now. They needed to focus on saving Juru first. Elsewhere, Hiro and Sarado had entered the gorge to search for Serafuria. The ecosystem there seemed magnified 1,000,000,000 times over, and the two of them became tiny children lost in the grass of their own backyard. A frog-like monster appeared and attacked them both. Rather than fighting, Hiro and Sarado quickly looked for an opportunity to flee. Finding the medicine came first, but then it started to rain, making the search even harder. Just then, Sarado spotted a flower on a nearby cliff face that looked exactly like what they needed. Hiro immediately ran toward it to pick the flower. Back at the inn, Tomit brought up Sherisharu again with undisguised fury. Erin admitted that she had overheard through the Alshina artifact that Nambuko wanted Hiro dead. She believed the bastard had done all of this to test the relationship between Dagenzot and Hiro, and he had already gotten his answer. On the cliff, Hiro was struggling to pick the Serafuria, which seemed to be rooted impossibly deep in the earth. No matter how hard he pulled, it would not budge. At that very moment, a turtle-like monster emerged from beneath the patch of ground where the flower grew. The spot Hiro had been standing on was the creature's shell. In the inn, Erin mentioned Hiro's plan to reach the Deadwish lands and reclaim the Grand Troa to avenge his parents. She revealed that rumors were circulating that one nation had obtained Dagenzot, and all 3 kingdoms were aware. Everyone now understood that Nambuko was the one spreading these rumors to drive weapons purchases from all 3 countries and inflate the price of magic stones. Erin said this was also a warning. War was coming. She believed that while Hiro was doing well, he was not yet strong enough to reach the Deadwish lands and stand against Nambuko. He needed to push himself much harder. Meanwhile, Hiro was desperately clinging to the turtle's shell, trying to pluck the Serafuria while the creature kept trying to shake him off. After a grueling struggle, he finally managed to pull out the entire plant, roots and all, before tumbling off the shell and being caught by Sarado. The two of them rushed back to the inn and brewed the medicine for Juru. Fortunately, right after drinking it, Juru woke up and showed rapid signs of recovery. Tomit was not with the group. He had borrowed Erin's Alshina to contact his friends in the Thieves' Guild. After the call, Tomit returned to the room looking dejected and handed the device back to Erin. The situation back in town was terrible. Even the youngest children had been sent to the magic stone quarries to labor. His own crew was still safe, but witnessing ordinary people being dragged away filled Tomit with outrage. This was the first time Juru and Hiro heard about the impending war. Tomit asked Erin whether war would truly break out and what would happen to the children and the common people. This only strengthened Tomit's resolve to reclaim the Grand Troa. He was not the only one in tears. Sarado, for reasons no one understood, was crying too. The next day, the group left Rukionau and continued their journey. Their next destination was the sacred mountain Garauko, where Master Theo resided. Hiro was anxious about the coming war, but Juru always prioritized Hiro's health above all else. They needed to deal with that first. Just then, an elderly man appeared. The moment Juru and Palupa saw him, they immediately bowed with deep respect. Theo spotted Sarado and pulled her into an embrace, overjoyed at the reunion between 2 old friends. The deeper they traveled, the harder it became to breathe on the long mountain path. After a arduous trek, they finally arrived at Master Theo's cave. Theo calmly mentioned that alongside Barrow, Balbagoa had also been one of his disciples. Palupa reminded the group that Theo was the most powerful grand sorcerer on the entire continent, and they had better show him the utmost respect and caution. After mentally preparing themselves, the group entered the cave. Juru, with the most respectful bearing he could muster, recounted Hiro's entire story and asked the master for help with both Hiro and his current condition. After listening, Master Theo said nothing. He simply unleashed an overwhelmingly powerful wave of magic that engulfed the entire cave. It was soul-destroying fire, though it was merely an imitation he had created based on the evil dragon's power. Ordinary humans would feel neither heat nor pain from it. The real soul-destroying fire had appeared during the Balbagoa catastrophe and had annihilated the souls of tens of thousands. That very event had left Hiro with Dagenzot's heart and a tremendously violent power inside his body. Hiro explained that he wanted to avenge his parents, but his unstable body was a serious problem. He then asked Theo why someone with such immense power had not joined his parents in sealing Dagenzot. Theo simply replied that one cannot stop a hurricane, and a sorcerer cannot halt an evil dragon. He stated plainly that the creature was beyond human capability, and nothing could kill it. After his explanation, Theo said he would teach hero magic, specifically how to suppress the dragon form from emerging. The group filed out of the cave so Hiro could train. Before beginning, Theo sent Juru to hunt for meat, Tomet to fetch water, and Erin excused herself to go sightseeing. With only Hiro, Sarado, and Palupa remaining outside, the training session began. First, the two stood on opposite sides of a straight line. Theo told Hiro to walk along it no matter how much it twisted and curved. Then he handed Hiro a piece of paper with Sarado's face drawn on it and told him to crumple it up and unfold it, repeating the action several times. Hiro followed every instruction without understanding any of it, while Palupa ceaselessly praised the master's profound wisdom. Elsewhere, Erin was using Alshana to eavesdrop on intelligence flowing between the nations. All three kingdoms had begun assembling soldiers, weapons, and armor, conducting training drills in preparation for battle. Among the intelligence was a secret report claiming that the evil dragon Dagenzot would appear at Balbagoa. Back at the cave, Theo told Hiro to throw the paper away. However, since Sarado insisted on seeing the drawing, Hiro indulged her. Theo simply watched them in silence. While Juru was out hunting, Hiro continued following Theo's instructions and picked up a pebble. The master told him to throw it wherever he wanted, so Hiro hurled it toward Theo. Instantly, the stone emitted a flash of light that left Theo visibly stunned, though Hiro paid it no attention. Theo told Hiro that where the stone had landed was exactly where Hiro wanted it to be, and that was all that mattered. Palupa and Sarado clapped enthusiastically at these cryptic words. Only Hiro understood nothing and furiously drew his sword, ready to attack. Theo calmly said that if Hiro wished, he would agree to spar with him. Elsewhere, Sherisharu was still confined to her room. Her soldiers came to comfort her, but she seemed to have no desire left beyond seeing Nambuko. The soldier could only sigh and leave. Back at Hiro's training ground, Theo held nothing but an imaginary sword to face him. Yet with a single wave of his hand, he generated enough force to knock Sarado's magic staff away. Theo told Hiro to try wielding his own imaginary sword. Though Hiro found it utterly absurd, he extended his hand anyway. To his astonishment, it actually worked. A single imaginary sword strike cleaved the stone pillar behind Theo in two. Theo immediately broke into a smile and praised Hiro, even though the boy had no idea what he had just accomplished. Each person tended to their own tasks, and by evening they shared dinner and rested. Night fell, but Hiro was still practicing the imaginary sword with Master Theo. Back in the Deadwish lands, Sherisharu was still wallowing in despair when a soldier entered and reported that Nambuko wished to see her. Her face instantly lit up, the hollow expression vanishing entirely. Deep into the night, Theo met with Juru to share his assessment of Hiro. The boy truly was his father's son. He stated bluntly that Hiro had no talent as a swordsman, but his potential for magic was real, and in fact extraordinarily strong. Otherwise, how could a human body endure the weight of a dragon's heart? Hiro's power was immense. The boy simply did not realize it. Before leaving, Theo reminded Juru that Hiro was very dangerous, and that Hiro and Sarado were a pair. Juru was stunned by this revelation. On the other side, the moment Sherisharu met Nambuko, she beamed with happiness, failing to notice that she was standing directly in front of the doctor's transformation machine. The next morning, Hiro resumed training with Master Theo, though the exercises involved bizarre body contortions that drove him crazy. Just as Hiro was about to lose his temper, Theo announced the final exam. Hiro had to strike him with the imaginary sword. Though Hiro did not believe he possessed any magic, he raised his hand and prepared to attack. Everyone was brimming with confidence in him, but the strike appeared to have no effect whatsoever. Even so, Theo dramatically acted as though he were in tremendous pain, then nodded and declared Hiro had passed. Though no one understood what had happened, they quickly packed their things and set off. Hiro did not forget to thank the old master. Once he was alone, Theo reflected on what had truly occurred. Hiro had indeed launched an attack, and it was a devastating one. Even Theo's own defensive magic could not withstand it and shattered. Only now did Theo understand why Barrow had swapped his son's heart with the evil dragons. The exchange had served to restrain both of them from losing control. On the road, Hiro and his companions continued their adventure to new destinations, passing through cities and forests until they reached a barren expanse on the Mort Desert. This time, they only needed to cross it to reach the Deadwish lands, but the crossing itself would take an entire month. Just then, in the middle of the desert, Nambuko's eagle reappeared. Juru quickly slashed it away with his sword, but in doing so accidentally knocked Eren off balance. Tomet realized the bird now also knew their location and was deeply frustrated. At that moment, from Eren's fallen Alshina device, Nambuko's voice suddenly rang out. He had been communicating with Eren in her capacity as an information broker. At last, Eren's identity as a traitor was exposed for all to see. After receiving no response, Nambuko did not bother trying to contact Eren again. Everyone immediately crowded around and demanded she explain herself. She made no excuses, bluntly admitting that she was an information broker and had sold them out many times already. Though disappointed, Juru and the others did not retaliate. It was not worth it. They simply pressed on, continuing their trek across the Mort Desert. On the other side, after hearing Dr. Bafalapa's explanation, Sherisharu did not hesitate to climb onto the machine. At the other end, Yellow Doggy was already waiting. Her loyal soldier immediately tried to stop her, warning it was far too dangerous. But for Nambuko, this madwoman would do anything. She climbed onto the machine without a second thought. Dr. Bafalapa quickly hit the activation switch, and the machine began to glow just as it had during the previous trial. And so, yet another grotesque fusion took place. In the desert, everyone endured the scorching heat as they pushed toward their goal. Elsewhere, one of the three kingdoms, upon receiving intelligence that the other two were forming an alliance and planning to use the evil dragon Dagenzot to destroy them, erupted with fury. They immediately dispatched an army to the buffer zone of Balbagoa under the banner of saving the people, preparing to launch a new war. When night fell, the desert's temperature plummeted by dozens of degrees despite the daytime heat, and the group had no choice but to stop and set up camp. Despite all they had endured, the Deadwish lands were still estimated to be 3 more days of walking away. Even so, the very next day, they resumed their march. Another kingdom among the 3 received similar intelligence and also swiftly mobilized its forces for defense and offense, marching toward the buffer zone. In the desert, during their journey, Palupa accidentally fell into a sand pit where a Jangalo monster lurked below, waiting to devour him. Juru quickly pulled out his cloak for Palupa to grab, but it was not long enough. Tomet and Sarado were about to jump down to rescue him, but Hiro stopped them, as that would only risk more lives. Just then, Eren appeared once again, tossing down a rope and a piece of wood. Despite loathing the traitor, Palupa grabbed the lifeline for the sake of survival, and was finally pulled free from the sand pit. Hiro thanked Eren for saving Palupa, but made it clear he did not want to see her anymore. Eren calmly reminded them that if they continued like this, the road to the Deadwish lands would only grow longer. They would be walking in circles. Elsewhere, the Third Kingdom also received the intelligence. They waited for the king's decree to launch the war, and after 3 days and 3 nights, the king finally emerged from his chambers clad in armor and carrying his sword, ready for battle. They too prepared to march on Balbagoa. Back in the Mort Desert, the group was hit by a massive sandstorm. Everyone was separated and scattered to different locations. Palupa ended up with Eren, Juru with Tomet, and Sarado remained at Hiro's side as always. Each pair pressed forward, hoping they might reunite along the way. During their walk, seeing Palupa's open hostility toward her, Eren simply explained that she had originally approached Nambuko to steal the Grand Troa, but the old man had seen through her from the start, so she never gained anything from it. When night came, Hiro shivered and hugged himself against the cold while Sarado watched him with concern. A new day arrived. Palupa and Eren prepared to set out again. On the other side, Hiro had collapsed from dehydration. Sarado was deeply worried and immediately used her abilities, sensing the surroundings in all directions to locate a water source and save the person beside her. The other pair fared no better. Juru struggled to carry the unconscious, dehydrated Tomet on his shoulders, but fortunately they soon reunited with Eren's group. Together, they headed toward an oasis, hoping to find the rest of their party. Elsewhere, Sarado finally found a small amount of water for Hiro, which brought him back from the brink of hallucination. In the sky above, their whereabouts were once again spotted by the eagle. The yellow doggy monster was still racing toward them at full speed. Juru's group was luckier. They reached the oasis and plunged into its cool waters, and Tomet regained consciousness as well. In the middle of the desert, Sarado was dragging Hiro forward when she spotted something ahead. Sherisharu was charging straight at them. She had transformed into a fusion of herself and Yellow Doggy. Sherisharu easily knocked Sarado aside, seized Hiro, and teleported him to the Deadwish lands. At Balbagoa, the armies of all three kingdoms had assembled at their battle lines, preparing for the coming war. Inside the Deadwish lands, Hiro awoke to find himself in a castle, face to face with Nambuko. Once again, Hiro grabbed his sword and lunged, and once again, Nambuko blocked his blade. Nambuko then revealed a staggering truth. He too had been at Balbagoa 10 years ago. It was he who had fired the arrow that disrupted the sealing ritual, the one who had indirectly killed Hiro's parents. Hearing this, Hiro's determination to kill Nambuko only intensified. Nambuko remarked coolly that while he had anticipated nearly everything, Barrow's decision to swap his son's heart with the evil dragons had been a truly unexpected move. Were it not for the dragon blood crystal that day, he would have perished alongside them. But it was precisely that crystal that deepened his obsession with Dagenzot and its wicked power. Nambuko knocked Hiro's sword away but declared he would not kill him. After all, when the time came, Hiro would be needed to summon the evil dragon. Nambuko intended to use Hiro as a tool to control Dagenzot. In the desert, after resting, the group resumed their search for Hiro. This time Eren used Alshina and quickly picked up Sarado's signal. They found Sarado standing there, tapping the sand. Jiru recognized this as a method for summoning dragons. After several rhythmic taps, a dragon finally appeared in the sky and descended. Jiru leaped down in alarm, wanting to protect her, but in an instant Sarado had climbed into the dragon's mouth, leaving everyone stunned. Seeing Jiru about to attack, Sarado told the dragon to open its mouth, then explained to the group that she simply wanted the dragon to carry them. And so, everyone climbed onto the dragon and flew straight to Nambuko's castle. In the Deadwish lands, Dr. Bafalapa was still conducting his research. With this weapon combined with the Grand Troa, they could conquer the entire continent. After all, the Grand Troa possessed immense magical power, enough to destroy an entire castle. Nambuko listened to the report and disconnected without hesitation. At that very moment, a strange notification appeared on the doctor's machinery. Outside, thanks to the dragon, everyone had reached Nambuko's castle. The fortress had once been ruled by a demon lord named Jerokias, a figure from history who was defeated by the hero Dalhalbart. Nambuko had repurposed the ruins to fortify his own stronghold. Just then, something struck the dragon and killed it. Its body crashed down onto the fortress walls, and soldiers immediately established a perimeter to hunt for intruders. Fortunately, when the dragon was hit, everyone had already jumped clear and escaped. Standing on the heights, they finally witnessed with their own eyes the horrors Nambuko had created. Getting inside the castle seemed impossibly dangerous. Eren had only managed it before thanks to Mumu, and they currently had no way to infiltrate. At that moment, Dr. Bafalapa suddenly appeared through magic, searching for Sarado. He quickly opened a magical gateway to bring himself and Sarado inside, and before it closed, the entire group dove through as well. They were transported to Bafalapa's laboratory. Watching the doctor speak with Sarado, the group finally began questioning her true identity. The doctor explained without delay. Sarado was a puppet he had created using magic, on Nambuko's orders. Though stunned, they quickly accepted this and asked why Nambuko had wanted her created in the first place. Bafalapa reminded them of the Balbagoa tragedy 10 years ago, revealed Nambuko's presence that day, and explained how the man had survived. After returning alive, Nambuko had ordered the doctor to use the crystal to create an ultimate warrior, one who could stand in the midst of soul-destroying fire and still fight. Bafalapa had crafted her according to his own aesthetic of beauty, which greatly displeased Nambuko, who demanded the puppet be destroyed. Bafalapa had refused. He had set Sarado free, and that was how she and Hiro had met. Upon learning that Hiro carried a dragon's heart, Bafalapa flew into a rage. Sarado wanted to find a way to save Hiro, but the doctor refused. Catastrophe was about to strike. The moment of the dragon's descent was approaching. Nambuko would exploit that time to summon Dagenzot, and he might even exploit Sarado in the process. Bafalapa did not want Sarado to be harmed and insisted on taking her somewhere safe. At this, Sarado pulled away from the doctor and turned to leave. She had to find Hiro. Worried for his creation, Bafalapa immediately begged Jiru's group to protect Sarado. The group quickly left the laboratory and searched for any trace of Hiro. After rummaging through the castle, they found their way to the room housing the magical conversion machine. Nambuko had been waiting for them all along. He appeared with Hiro, who was being held at sword point by Sherisharu. Hiro struggled to warn them to run. It was a trap. Sarado offered herself in exchange for Hiro, but Nambuko needed them both for his plan. Faced with his demands and fearing for Hiro's life, Sarado stepped forward to question his true intentions. Instantly, Sherisharu used her magic to teleport Nambuko, Hiro, and Sarado to Balbagoa. Juru tried to rush forward, but was blocked by Sherisharu and could not reach them in time. At Balbagoa, the three arrived. The moment of the dragon's descent had come. Soldiers from the three kingdoms saw the eclipse and trembled with fear, believing an evil force was devouring the sun. As that moment struck, Nambuko's machine activated. He intended to use the residual magical power of Jerokia's to fuse all three nations' soldiers with Dagenzot, creating a monster more terrifying than the evil dragon itself. Everyone who heard this plan could only conclude that these people had completely lost their minds. But then the ruins of Jerokia's began to tremble. Sherisharu was preparing to seal the sphere and channel all its magical power to Balbagoa. Juru thought she had truly gone insane, willing to destroy herself like that. Sherisharu simply gloated that Nambuko would never let her die. The moment the gateway sealed, Nambuko contacted them and announced that when the sphere closed completely, every soul inside would be drained into pure magical energy. Only then did everyone in the castle realize what was happening. Panic erupted like an anthill set ablaze. Sherisharu watched Nambuko disconnect without a word of concern for her and finally understood that she too had been discarded. She screamed in despair. Dr. Bafalapa appeared and explained that the sphere had sealed all magic inside. No one could escape. While everyone despaired, he added that his true self was already present at Balbagoa. At Balbagoa, Nambuko pointed his sword at Sarado, intending to awaken the crystal within her. At that moment, Dr. Bafalapa appeared and demanded Nambuko not lay a hand on his greatest masterpiece. Nambuko easily swatted the doctor aside, then used some kind of power to compel Sarado to walk toward him of her own accord. He then drove his blade straight into her chest. Hiro tried desperately to save her but could not. After enduring the agony, Sarado became a true puppet. Yet she unleashed her real power. Nambuko had used a subjugation spell to strip her of all resistance, then ordered her to attack Hiro. Like a soulless marionette, Sarado obeyed instantly. Back at the Jerokia sphere, the structure had begun to collapse, and its magical energy was being channeled to the machine at Balbagoa. While Juru's group searched for an escape, Sherisharu remained drowning in despair over being abandoned. Palupa drew his card to summon Mumu, but the magic in this place was too weak. Once the sphere fully closed, summoning would be impossible. In their desperate situation, everyone pooled every last coin and possession they had to trade with Mumu for a treasure that could save them. Juru then asked Sherisharu to teleport them to Balbagoa after breaching the Jerokia's sphere. After her moment of utter hopelessness, Sherisharu agreed without hesitation, even vowing to kill Nambuko with her own hands. After receiving full payment, Mumu appeared in the Deadwish lands and used her weapon to punch a hole through the sphere, allowing magical energy to flow back into the castle. At Balbagoa, Nambuko watched in silence as Sarado and Hiro fought each other. He wanted Hiro to transform into his dragon form so they could merge. After enduring her relentless attacks, Hiro finally did transform. Nambuko's plan was proceeding perfectly. He was waiting for Hiro's dragon form to reach full completion, for only then would the evil dragon appear at its most powerful state. Just as Hiro was about to lunge at Sarado, Sherisharu's gateway opened, teleporting Juru and the others to Balbagoa. Nambuko relentlessly ordered Sarado to attack and finish Hiro off. The two fought each other without mercy. Just as she was about to deliver the killing blow, Hiro once again felt his own heartbeat thundering with ferocious intensity. He knocked Sarado away from him. Then, to the astonishment of everyone present, the evil dragon Dagenzot appeared once more. Among them all, only Nambuko was overjoyed at the sight. He quickly activated the 3 magic absorption and conversion machines. In an instant, streams of power positioned from every direction surged straight into Dagenzot. This energy came from the soldiers of all 3 kingdoms. Nambuko waited for the moment of fusion, the creation of an evil dragon, 1,000,000,000 times darker and more terrifying than Dagenzot. And after that, he would merge with it himself. He took out the Grand Troa and placed it inside the magical pillar. Immediately, an overwhelmingly massive beam of energy appeared in the sky, pouring down onto the earth and radiating outward through the air. Seeing that the moment had arrived, Nambuko did not hesitate to stride into the heart of the battlefield to begin the fusion. The surge of power from the machine was so great it could blow everyone away. When the curtain of darkness finally lifted, Nambuko had completely transformed. He had successfully merged with Dagenzot and obtained absolute power. Everyone stared in stunned disbelief, especially Bafalapa. Hiro immediately charged at him, but Nambuko blocked him with ease. Though Hiro carried the heart of the evil dragon, he was still only human. Hiro was hurled into the air and then brutalized like a punching bag. In his delirium, Hiro saw visions of his father Barrow and his mother Kismetit. As though drawing strength from their spirits, Hiro snapped back to reality, broke free from Nambuko's grasp, and leaped back to the ground. His red eyes had returned to normal. Nambuko continued his assault, sending Hiro flying with a devastating punch. On the other side, Eren interrogated Dr. Bafalapa about how to stop this unholy fusion. The doctor explained that they needed to sever all 3 magical pillars and then remove the Grand Troa. Once that was done, the magical energy would reverse its flow, and the dark sorcery in the Deadwish lands would spiral out of control and self-destruct. In the distance, Sarado gradually regained consciousness and saw Hiro being pummeled by Nambuko at full power. After sending Hiro crashing down, Nambuko rose into the sky. He intended to unleash soul-destroying fire and annihilate every living thing in this place. Dr. Bafalapa used every ounce of his strength and speed to shut down the first magical pillar. Upon receiving the signal of success, Tomit and Eren simultaneously deactivated the other 2. This immediately reversed the flow of magical energy above. Nambuko screamed in shock and fury. After the pillars were severed, Palupa and Tomit also retrieved the Grand Troa. Just when it seemed Nambuko would self-destruct, his voice rang out once more. He had not been destroyed. Soul-destroying fire spread across the sky yet again. Its force was so devastating that the soldiers of the 3 kingdoms were obliterated like straw. At Balbagoa, the madman Nambuko savored the exquisite beauty of annihilation. But then he noticed that Sarado had used her power to shield Hiro and the others. The moment she handed the sword to Hiro, Nambuko did not hesitate to kill her by ripping the crystal from her chest. Hiro was struck with shock and rage. Once more he raised his sword and severed one of Nambuko's arms, then drove the blade deep into his chest. Ordinarily, no one could pierce the body of the evil dragon, so Nambuko was caught completely off guard. After slaying Nambuko, Hiro rushed to Sarado's side, but she would not wake. Yet the danger and despair did not end there. With the fused body dead, Dagenzot's original form emerged once more, having fully recovered its former power. As everyone sank into hopelessness, Hiro was struck by a thought. If the dragon's heart was inside his body, would it not die if he killed himself? Without hesitation, he pointed his sword at his own chest. This was the only way the others could live. But at that very moment, Master Theo's cryptic teachings echoed in his mind. Something clicked at last. Hiro turned and called out to Tomit to bring him the Grand Troa. After receiving it, Hiro made his wish. He drew an imaginary sword and charged at the evil dragon. Instantly, a crack appeared on the dragon's body, and from within it, a beating heart emerged. It was Hiro's heart. What he needed to do now was swap his heart back with the dragon's, returning each to its rightful place. But Hiro looked toward Sarado's lifeless body. He suddenly moved toward her and placed his own heart inside her instead. Moments later, Sarado opened her eyes, and in the distance, the evil dragon, having lost its heart, finally dissolved into nothingness. At last, they had destroyed Dagenzot. Juru and the others were astonished by Hiro's decision. But more importantly, Palupa gleefully ran over to snatch up the Grand Troa. Tomit and Eren also dove in to claim it, but in the ensuing struggle, the stone shattered into pieces. Seeing it break, Juru immediately realized this was never the real Grand Troa, because the genuine article could never be destroyed. It had likely vanished the moment the evil dragon was slain. Upon waking, the first thing Sarado searched for was Dr. Bafalapa. Palupa handed her his staff. The doctor had sacrificed himself to protect her. Sarado took the staff, and because she now had a real heart, she could no longer hold back her tears. She wept with grief. Juru then noticed that the armies of all 3 kingdoms had withdrawn at some point without anyone realizing. It turned out Eren had used Alshana to contact the rulers of all 3 nations and told them the entire truth, which led them to pull back their forces. Though there was no immediate threat, war between the 3 kingdoms remained an ever-present possibility for the future. While they were lost in these somber thoughts, Mumu appeared out of nowhere, and upon seeing them alive, was overjoyed and immediately demanded payment. Elsewhere, Sherisharu's loyal soldiers had caught up to her and were thrilled to find her still alive. Comforted by their presence, Sherisharu cast aside her sorrow and set off with her soldiers to continue her own life. When the sun rose again, everyone gathered to build a memorial for Dr. Bafalapa in his honor. Palupa then raised a question. If Hiero's heart was now with Sarado, did that mean the dragon's heart was still inside him? Hiero did not seem concerned, simply saying that his heart should now be called Sarado's heart. After everything was settled, Hiero took out the Dalhalbart badge and gave it to Tomet as a keepsake. Everyone began discussing what lay ahead on their journey. Hiero stubbornly insisted on continuing his sword training, which left everyone speechless. He was clearly far more suited to being a sorcerer. But no matter how much they argued, their adventure would carry on, stretching endlessly forward into countless new journeys waiting to unfold.